Hi guys, this is my week 3 discussion post, and the first question that we were told to answer was which of the two figures this week we thought caught our attention the most. And for me, it was John of Damascus that caught my attention the most. And the main reason for this was just that I thought that his kind of backstory before he began teaching was very interesting, and how he went from working for a Muslim caliph in his court to then when the Muslim tried to purify his court a bit more to where it was only Muslims, he left and then moved to near Jerusalem and started working on some of the problems that were going on in the church, and how mostly the biggest problem that he helped with was about whether icons were, bad, or if they were okay to have in churches. And his teaching on that topic was that icons were all right to have in churches because Jesus was incarnated and seen in the flesh. So having icons wasn't bad because he had been seen in the flesh, so it wasn't trying to put an image to something that is completely unknown. And I think that his teachings, that was very interesting in that way. And I really liked this quote. It kind of just summarized all of his the biggest things that he focused on, so I thought it was a good quote to include in this. And it says that he focused on creation, the incarnation, angels, Mariology, the sacraments, and the doctrines of the Trinity. So I think that was nice because it kind of just summarized all of the different things that he really focused on in his teachings, and how it wasn't just about the icons, although that was a huge problem in the church at that time, but how he also dealt with many problems that were really prevalent. And I think it's also very interesting how, even though his views didn't immediately change liturgical practice at that time, they did eventually start to change it. And how I thought it was so interesting how the Orthodox Church continues to carry on his legacy by celebrating the iconoclast on the first Sunday of Lent. So I think that's interesting how, even though it didn't catch on immediately at that time, now in our time, he's still his teachings are still celebrated and remembered. So I thought that was very interesting to hear about. And there were some connections that I saw with the lectures. The biggest one that I found was how the lectures mentioned the incarnation and creation and stuff like that, which was one of his biggest things that he focused on. And the lecture says, Jesus Christ is the true human being. That quote's from the lecture. And I thought that just kind of summed up a lot of John of Damascus's teachings as well, which I thought was interesting. I also think it's interesting how he both connects the lectures, but also connects with the two figures from last week's discussion, Augustine and then the Cappadocians, through sacraments was the main thing that connected them, and they were both discussed in the lecture, which I thought was super interesting. So yeah, that's what I thought was interesting about this week's discussion.